The story begins with a widow named Alma who had just come home from work. As soon as she arrived, she was immediately surprised by her only daughter, Rose, who greeted her with an enthusiastic face. Alma then said that tomorrow was her birthday, and her new boyfriend had invited the two of them to go sailing on a cruise ship. Hearing that, Rose just stayed silent while trying to process the news. The next day, they started getting ready to leave. Rose actually didn't really like her mom's new boyfriend, but just to see Alma happy, she still went sailing with them.
Water, sun.
When they arrived at the harbor, Alma immediately met her boyfriend, Derek. Derek explained that the trip would last for 2 days. Alma looked very happy, even though the sailing route they would pass through was known to be prone to storms. Not long after that, for the first time Derek met Rose in person. He tried to be friendly and as close as possible, considering he would become Rose's future stepfather. After greeting each other, the journey began. During the trip, Rose felt very bored, especially since her phone had no signal at all. Derek then called Rose to go up to the deck and asked her to get a rope stored in the storage room. When she went back down to look for the rope, she found a piece of paper that looked like a surprise plan for Alma. Not long after that, Rose and Derek gave Alma a birthday surprise with a cake. Alma looked touched and happy. They chatted together, and Derek once again tried to get closer to Rose by teaching her how to tie knots.
I absolutely fucking hate it.
An excellent bowman.
As a gift, Derek gave Rose a multi-purpose knife, while Alma got a t-shirt. The next day, they relaxed while enjoying the trip. Alma took a few photos and videos of Rose with her boyfriend. But suddenly, Alma slipped and fell into the sea. Derek quickly threw a life buoy toward her, while Rose was told to go down to the storage room to get a blanket and a first aid kit. While in the storage room, Rose accidentally found a gun. Luckily, Alma was saved and managed to get back on board. Alma apologized because her phone fell into the sea during the incident. Not long after that, the weather started to look worse, so they decided to take shelter inside the ship.
It'll be an adventure.
Derek explained that his ship had 1 lifeboat, 3 lifebuoys, and other safety equipment as precautions. Alma, who was panicking, asked to go home immediately, but Rose tried to calm her down. Thankfully, nothing bad happened to the 3 of them. That night, Rose had trouble sleeping. She heard sounds from outside the ship and tried to peek to see what was going on. But it turned out the sound was coming from her mom and her boyfriend, who were playing and laughing together. The next day, Rose approached her mom, who was on the deck. Not long after that, Derek came over to them. Rose finally gathered the courage to ask about the gun she had seen the day before. Derek explained that the gun was part of his job, then revealed that he was a former police officer. Hearing that, Rose became interested and asked Derek to teach her how to use the rifle.
Shoulder inside a little bit, up to your eyes.
After that, the 3 of them had drinks together on the ship. Rose, who started to feel drunk, chose to go into the cabin and eventually fell asleep. Meanwhile, Alma seemed to be enjoying her time with Derek on the ship. In the middle of the night, Rose woke up because she heard a strange noise. She peeked outside and saw another boat approaching. Not long after that, 2 people got off that boat and boarded Derek's ship. They immediately attacked Alma and Derek. Rose, who was panicking and worried, wanted to go out and help, but Alma signaled for her to stay hidden. Alma was eventually killed, while Derek was shot and fell into the sea. The 2 criminals searched the rooms of the ship, but luckily they didn't find Rose. Before leaving, they set Derek's ship on fire and abandoned it. After things felt safe, Rose tried to put out the fire. When she went up to the deck, she found that her mother was no longer alive. The next day, Rose tried to fix the ship's engine, but her efforts didn't work. A while later, she wrapped her mother's body and tied it so it wouldn't fall into the sea, then kept it carefully. After that, Rose went back inside the ship and tried to find any equipment she could use to call for help, but everything had been damaged by last night's fire. At the same time, she heard a noise from outside the ship and decided to go back up. Unexpectedly, Rose found Derek floating in the sea with a gunshot wound on his shoulder. With the help of the engine, she pulled Derek's body and managed to save him.
I can't, the radio's dead.
Rose then told him that her mother had been shot dead and explained the current condition of the ship. She tried to use the SOS transmitter in hopes that it might still work, but Derek said the device had been broken for a long time. Derek then asked Rose to install the spare sail stored inside the ship. With limited skills, Rose set up the sail by herself. That night, Rose found that the ship was leaking. She quickly patched it up before finally going back to her cabin to rest. The next day, Rose woke up after hearing Derek scream. She immediately went up to him on the deck. Derek asked her to get the first aid kit to clean the wound on his hand. At that moment, Rose asked about the criminals who attacked their ship, but Derek claimed he didn't know who they were. Derek then told Rose to try starting the engine again, but the attempt still failed. Feeling hopeless, Rose went back to her cabin. But accidentally, she found photos of Derek with the men who had attacked their ship a few days earlier. Feeling suspicious, Rose went back up and tied Derek up. Rose also took the knife from Derek's pocket. When she left him for a moment to fix the sail, Derek suddenly disappeared, taking the knife with him. Rose went inside the ship to look for him. Not long after, Derek came out of one of the rooms and said they had to find an island immediately because the ship's patch wouldn't last long. Rose again asked who the people were that attacked their ship. Derek only answered that they were high-level Mafia. They then opened the map and realized that their position was in open waters heading toward the Bermuda Triangle. Derek asked Rose to help him start the engine, and they worked together to try to turn it on. That night, Rose and Derek were busy fixing the ship. In the middle of the work, Derek fell, so Rose took him to the cabin. Derek told Rose to stay at the helm so the ship would keep heading east, because otherwise they could sink before reaching the Atlantic Ocean. The next day, Derek tried to map the ship's position. Rose, who had just woken up, followed him. Derek said that the necklace Alma had given, now worn by Rose, was from him. He also revealed that he had known and approached Alma for years. Hearing that, Rose asked that her mother be buried properly and not thrown into the sea. Over time, Rose and Derek's relationship started to grow closer, like a father and daughter. That night, Derek observed the stars through binoculars, hoping to find direction. But not long after he was watching, Rose, who was below deck, was shocked to hear Derek scream. Derek stormed inside the ship in a burst of anger. He shouted angrily after realizing their direction was wrong. Derek said the ship was actually moving toward the Atlantic Ocean, not in the direction it was supposed to go. The next day, Rose woke up and saw an island in the distance. Without hesitation, she immediately steered the ship toward the island. As they were getting close, Derek lowered the lifeboat and asked Rose to go with him.
One arm.
But in the middle of the trip, the lifeboat's oar suddenly broke. Rose, who tried to grab it, ended up falling into the sea. Luckily, Derek managed to save her. With the little strength he had left, Derek carried Rose to the shore, while their lifeboat drifted away with the current to who knows where. When they reached the beach, Derek tried to wake Rose up, but her body was still too weak, and she passed out again. Sometime later, Rose finally regained consciousness and found that Derek was nowhere around her. Rose tried to explore the island, which seemed uninhabited. After walking for quite a while, she found Derek lying among large rocks at the edge of the beach.
Gotta finish this loop.
The two of them then went into the forest to look for something to eat. Not long after that, they saw that the lifeboat that had drifted away earlier had been carried back to the shore by the current. That night, they turned the ship's sail into a tent. Rose fell asleep inside it, then woke up and warmed herself near the campfire. Derek came over to her, and they had a light conversation. Derek started talking about his past. He admitted that he had once joined a criminal group with his friends, although it didn't last long. According to him, their leader, who was usually called Captain, was a very cruel person and a predator of young women. Derek also revealed that the person who shot Rose's mother was Captain. Hearing that confession, Rose's emotions flared up and she intended to take revenge. Seeing the situation, Derek changed the subject by asking Rose to learn how to tie knots, reminding her of what happened yesterday when her knot was easily undone.
Girls. You think you got a poker face? Show you where you fucked up?
When Rose's hands started to get tied up, she saw the SOS transmitter that had previously been said to be broken. Derek then admitted that the device was actually still working and could call a rescue team. When Rose was completely tied up, Derek revealed his true intentions. He said that he really did love Alma, but after seeing Rose, he began to feel tempted. He planned to take advantage of Rose and then hand her over to Captain, who turned out to still be his boss. Rose tried to shoot him, but the plan failed because the gun she used wasn't loaded. Derek continued attacking Rose until she fell, but she managed to escape into the forest. Derek chased her and tried to shoot her from a distance. The next day, Rose, who had fallen asleep in the forest, woke up and realized that Derek was still hunting her. She ran as fast as she could until she reached a cliff that led down to the beach. There was no other choice but to climb down the cliff. When Rose reached the bottom, Derek also arrived at the edge of the cliff and started shooting at her. Rose then approached Derek because she thought he was already dead. But Derek suddenly regained consciousness and tried to hurt her. After hitting Derek's head with a rock, Rose tried to grab the SOS transmitter, but she couldn't activate it. Injured, Derek said that he would hand Rose over to Captain to get forgiveness for his past mistakes. Hearing that, Rose immediately ran away, leaving Derek helpless and alone on the island. She went back to the ship and treated her wounds. But that night, the ship's leak got worse until it was almost sinking. Rose quickly moved some belongings into the lifeboat. When she tried to move her mother's body, she failed, and Alma's body completely sank into the sea. The next day, the lifeboat Rose was on drifted in the middle of the ocean. Not long after that, she saw a ship passing by. She immediately fired a flare gun, hoping to get help. That night, Rose was rescued by a small boat and then taken to a bigger ship. When she arrived, she was served food. Even so, she felt uneasy because the crew members looked intimidating. Not long after, a woman appeared who was suspected to be an escort. When she saw the man holding the woman's hand, Rose realized that she was on Captain's ship, Derek's boss. After taking a shower, Rose got an idea. She planned to kill Captain as revenge for her mother's death. She dressed up, wore the clothes given to her, and entered Captain's room. There, she invited Captain to talk about how to operate the ship. Captain looked tempted and told his guard to leave the room. Rose pretended to ask for medicine for her wound. When Captain turned around to get it, Rose hit him from behind. After Captain was dead, Rose ran away. Captain's men soon realized that Rose was Derek's captive and started searching for her all over the ship. While hiding, Rose accidentally entered a room where the escort woman was. She asked where the weapons room was. The woman gave her directions but admitted she couldn't help further, including the other women. From that, Rose realized that the ship was holding many women captive. When she reached the engine room, Rose finally found a weapon, but one of Captain's men found out. Rose moved through the ship again until she found a room locked from the outside. When she opened it, that was where the young women were being held captive.
Drop it.
One of the women managed to hit a guard. Rose felt relieved because Captain and his men had been taken down. She asked one of the women to turn on the radio to call for help. But unexpectedly, Derek managed to reach the ship and immediately attacked Rose.
Turns out...
In the end, Rose managed to kill Derek by stabbing him in the chest. The woman who had helped her earlier took Rose to the upper deck. There, all the captive women had gathered and were looking at the city lights in the distance, a sign that they would soon dock. The story then shifts to the police station. Rose was questioned about her voyage. The police also informed her that the women who were with her on the ship had been returned to their respective families. The officer then offered to take Rose home. She initially refused because she felt like she had no one left, but the officer insisted that she still had to move on with her life.